The night Avery found the envelope, she almost didn't open it. It had been tucked behind the water heater in the basement, the kind of place you only end up if you're looking for the extra extension cord or the box of Christmas ornaments you keep meaning to throw out. She'd gone down there on a Tuesday evening in late October, after dinner, after doing the dishes, after putting Lily to bed, just to find the cord. That was all. The envelope was yellow and unsealed, fat with folded paper. Her name wasn't on it, neither was her husband's. It just sat there between the pipe and the drywall, like it had always been there, like it belonged. She almost put it back. She didn't. Avery had married Kevin 3 years earlier in a small ceremony at his parents' property outside Barry, his mother Donna's idea. Because everything was always Donna's idea. The venue, the flowers, the seating arrangement that put Avery's parents at a table near the back, while Donna's sister and her husband sat in the front row. Avery had told herself it didn't matter, it was one day. But Donna never stopped at one day. From the beginning, Avery understood that marrying Kevin meant absorbing his mother into her daily life the way you absorb water damage, slowly, invisibly, until the structure starts to give. Donna called every morning before 9. She dropped by without warning. She had opinions about how Avery loaded the dishwasher, how she dressed their daughter, whether the soup Avery made from scratch had enough salt. Kevin always sided with his mother. Not loudly, not cruelly. He'd just go quiet when Avery raised something, and then later, after Donna had left, he'd say, "She means well," or, "You're being a bit sensitive," or the one that's stuck like a splinter, "She's just involved. She loves us." Avery had grown up in Sudbury, the daughter of a high school vice principal and a woman who ran a bookkeeping business from the kitchen table. Her parents were private people, practical and warm, in a way that didn't require performance. They didn't show up uninvited. They didn't offer opinions unless asked. The contrast with Donna was so sharp that in the first year of marriage, Avery had genuinely wondered if she was the strange one. She wasn't. She'd left her job as an administrative coordinator at a civil engineering firm when their daughter was born. A decision she and Kevin made together, or so she'd believed. What she hadn't counted on was how completely that decision would shift the balance of power in the marriage. Without her own income, she became dependent on Kevin for everything, and Kevin, whether intentionally or not, had let that dependency become a kind of leverage. When she pushed back on Donna, Kevin reminded her that his salary was what paid the mortgage. When she suggested couples counseling, Kevin said they didn't need strangers involved in their business. When she mentioned once quietly that she was unhappy, Kevin told her she had a good life and maybe she should think about that. So she thought about it. She thought about it every day. She thought about it while she folded laundry and made Lily's lunches and smiled when Donna came over and nodded, when Donna suggested she was feeding Lily too much screen time. She thought about it and she stayed because she had a daughter and no money of her own and no clear path out that didn't feel like stepping off a cliff in the dark. Then she found the envelope. Inside were 3 documents. The first was a handwritten note, Donna's handwriting, which Avery recognized from the birthday cards that arrived every year with a little too much instruction inside them. The note was addressed to Kevin. "Kevin, I spoke with Stuart at the credit union. He says the process is straightforward, but we need to move before the end of the fiscal year. Your father's property in Muskoka is the cleanest asset to transfer. If we move it into the holding company before Avery's name is on anything, there's nothing she can claim later. I've attached the forms, sign and return by the 15th. Avery read it twice. Then she sat down on the cold concrete floor and read it a third time. The second document was a property transfer form, the Muskoka cottage that Kevin had always described as the family property, the one they'd brought Lily to every summer, the one Avery had assumed was jointly held because Kevin had said, more than once, that it would be theirs eventually. The third was a printed email chain between Kevin and a woman named Sabrina. Avery didn't know a Sabrina. The emails went back 14 months. She sat on that floor for a long time. Here is the thing about discovering that your husband and his mother have been conspiring to hide assets before a divorce you didn't know was coming. It clarifies things. All the fog, the confusion, the self-doubt, the wondering if she was being too sensitive or too needy or too something, it lifted, not slowly, not gradually. It lifted the way a curtain drops. 1 second it's there, and then it isn't, and you see what was always behind it. Avery put the documents back in the envelope. She put the envelope back behind the water heater. She went upstairs. She kissed Lily goodnight for the second time, even though her daughter was already half asleep. Then she sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea she didn't drink and thought very carefully about what she was going to do. She did not confront Kevin. Not that night, not the next morning, Not at the weekend when he came home from what he'd called a work trip to Sudbury, which she now understood was not work, and probably not Sudbury either. She smiled, she made dinner. She asked about his drive, and quietly, carefully, she started building the foundation she would need. The first call she made was to her father. Her dad, Ray, was not a man given to drama. He was 61, retired, grew tomatoes in the backyard of the house she'd grown up in, and had the particular calm of someone who'd spent 30 years managing a school of 600 teenagers. When Avery told him, haltingly, in a phone call from the car, parked 2 blocks from her house, what she'd found in the basement, he was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "Do you need money?" She started to cry. She hadn't cried yet, not since the floor of the basement, and now she couldn't stop. Her father talked her through it. He didn't say, "I always knew Kevin wasn't right for you." He didn't say, "What were you thinking?" He said, "We'll help you, whatever you need. But don't tell Kevin you know anything yet. Not until you've talked to a lawyer." Her mother, Jean, picked up the extension. Avery hadn't even realized she was on the call. "Come home when you're ready," Jean said. "Bring Lily. We'll make room." She found a family lawyer through a friend from her old job, a woman named Petra, who'd gone through her own divorce 2 years earlier and had navigated it with a precision that Avery had silently admired at the time. Petra gave her the name of her lawyer, a woman in Barrie who specialized in property disputes and had seen. She told Avery plainly at their first meeting every variation of what Avery was describing. This kind of pre-transfer, where one spouse attempts to move assets before separation, is formalized. It's something courts take very seriously, she said, especially when there's documentation. "I have documentation," Avery said. "Good. Don't touch it. Don't move it. I'm going to tell you exactly what to photograph and how." For the next 3 weeks, Avery lived 2 lives. In one, she was Kevin's wife. She cooked. She managed the house. She sat across from Donna at Sunday dinner and listened to Donna describe a bathroom renovation without once letting her expression change. In the other, she was quietly, methodically dismantling the trap that had been built around her. She photographed the documents from multiple angles. She logged dates and details of Kevin's absences in a notes app on her phone. She opened a personal bank account at a different institution, one Kevin didn't know about, and deposited the money her father transferred to her. She called the credit union, where the supposed meeting with Stewart had taken place, and confirmed, through careful questioning, that no such transfer had yet been executed. She had gotten to them in time. Her lawyer filed a notice with the land registry office, a caution that would flag any transfer attempt on the Muskoka property. If Kevin or Donna tried to move it now, there would be an automatic record. It would look exactly like what it was. She didn't tell Kevin. She smiled. She made dinner. She asked about his drive. The thing she hadn't expected, the part that blindsided her, was the moment she realized she'd already grieved. She'd thought, when the day finally came, she would feel the grief in waves. The loss of the marriage, the loss of the version of the future she'd imagined. Instead, she realized, sitting in a parking lot outside the Tim Hortons near her parents' house one morning in late November, that she'd been grieving for years. Quietly in the background, while she loaded the dishwasher correctly and smiled at Donna and told herself she was being too sensitive. There was nothing left to grieve. What she felt instead was something cooler and steadier. Not quite relief, closer to resolve. She told Kevin on a Friday evening, after Lily was in bed and the dishes were done. She didn't cry. She didn't raise her voice. She sat across from him at the kitchen table and told him she knew about the Muskoka transfer. She told him she knew about Sabrina. She told him that she had already spoken to a lawyer, that a caution had been placed on the property, and that any attempt to execute the transfer would be flagged. Kevin's face went through several changes in quick succession. First confusion. Then, briefly, something she recognized as guilt, a quick flicker that he shuddered fast. Then calculation. "I don't know what you think you found," he said. "I found the envelope," she said, "behind the water heater. I found the note from your mother and the transfer forms and the emails from Sabrina going back to last September." Silence. "Avery, you don't need to explain anything," she said. "My lawyer will contact your lawyer. Lily stays with me. We can work out the schedule, but she stays in this house for now, and I'll be staying here with her until everything is settled. You'll need to make other arrangements." Kevin stared at her. He looked, she thought, slightly reduced, like something that had only held its shape because she'd stopped pushing back. "My mother," he started. "Your mother," Avery said, "can speak to my lawyer." Donna called the next morning, then twice in the afternoon. Avery didn't answer. She sent a single text, "All communication through our lawyers from this point. Please don't contact me directly." Then she blocked the number. Her phone buzzed with a call from Kevin's brother, from Kevin's aunt. From a number she didn't recognize that she assumed was a friend of Donna's pressed into service. She blocked them all. She understood that this was the pressure campaign, that Donna expected her to buckle, to call back tearful and apologetic, to come to the table ready to concede. Donna had spent 3 years calibrating exactly how much pressure was required to make Avery give in. She had miscalculated. The legal process was not fast. Avery hadn't expected it to be. There were months of paperwork, of discovery, of Kevin's lawyer sending letters that his mother had clearly had significant input on. The Muskoka cottage was the central dispute. Kevin's position was that it was family property that had never been intended for Avery. Her lawyer's position was that it was a marital asset by every applicable measure, that documentations existed showing an attempted concealed transfer, and that the court should consider this evidence of bad faith. They settled out of court in the spring. Avery didn't get the cottage. She didn't want the cottage. She never wanted to see that property again. What she got was a financial settlement that gave her enough to breathe, shared custody structured around Lily's school schedule, with primary residence at the family home for 2 more years, and a clean separation agreement that Donna had no legal standing to challenge. The day she signed the final papers, she sat in her lawyer's office and felt something unlock in her chest. Not happiness, exactly. Not yet, but space. The first real space she'd had in 3 years. She drove home, picked up Lily from her parents' place where her daughter had been spending the afternoon, and took her for a walk along the trail by the river. It was a Thursday in April. The ice had just gone. The water was high and fast and cold-looking, and Lily wanted to throw sticks in from the bridge and watch them disappear downstream. They stood there for a long time, throwing sticks. In the year that followed, Avery rebuilt slowly and without fanfare. She went back to work, part-time at first, coordinating for a small environmental consulting firm that had posted a contract role she'd found through her dad's network. By autumn, she was full-time. She was good at her job. She'd always been good at her job. The salary wasn't what she'd made before, but it was hers, and that made it feel like something different entirely. She didn't date for a long time. She wasn't interested in dating. She was interested in figuring out who she was when no one was watching. When no one was calibrating how much pressure she could take. When no one was telling her she was being too sensitive. She found that she liked mornings. Liked them quiet, with coffee, and the sound of Lily still sleeping, and the particular early winter light that came through the kitchen window at an angle that made the whole room look warmer than it was. She'd forgotten she liked mornings. She'd spent 3 years dreading them because they meant another day of managing, of smiling, of holding herself very carefully in the shape that was expected. She stopped holding herself in any particular shape. She called her mom most evenings. She had her best friend Clover over for dinner on Fridays when Lily was with Kevin. She signed up for a pottery class because her mother had mentioned it and she'd thought, for the first time in years, why not me? She was bad at it. She kept going anyway. She met someone eventually. His name was Elliot, not some from the pottery class, though she made that joke when she told her parents about him. He was a contractor her firm had worked with on a project up near Huntsville, steady and unhurried, the kind of person who listened when you talked and didn't seem to need to fill silence. They went for coffee twice before she agreed to dinner. She was careful in a way she hadn't been the first time, but it was a different kind of careful. Not self-protective, just attentive, paying attention to what was actually in front of her, instead of what she hoped might be there. Lily liked him. Lily liked most people, because Lily was 6 and generous in the way that small children are before the world teaches them not to be. But she watched her daughter around him, watched how Lily chattered at him easily, and how he listened to her with the same quality of attention he gave Avery, and she thought, this is what it's supposed to look like. Donna, she heard through Kevin's brother, had been telling people that Avery had stolen the settlement money. This didn't surprise her. Donna needed a version of events that confirmed everything she'd already believed about Avery, and this was the version she'd chosen. Avery didn't correct it. She didn't call anyone. She didn't post anything. She let Donna build whatever story she needed to build, because it had nothing to do with Avery's actual life. For the first time, Donna's opinion was just noise, the kind that fades if you don't feed it. Kevin, she dealt with civilly for Lily's sake. He was a better father at a distance than he'd been as a husband. He showed up for his weekends, he paid what he was supposed to pay. He had learned, probably from his own lawyer, to keep his mother out of their co-parenting arrangements. It wasn't warmth, but it was functional, and functional was enough. There was a night, about 18 months after everything ended, when Avery came home late from a work event and found her mom sitting in the kitchen with Lily, both of them in pajamas, playing cards. Jean had driven down to watch Lily for the evening, something she did occasionally without being asked, just because she was that kind of person. Avery stood in the doorway for a moment before either of them noticed her. Lily was laughing at something, her head tipped back, that full-body laugh she had that still sometimes caught Avery off guard with how much it felt like a gift. Jean looked up, saw Avery's face, and smiled. "She's been beating me all night," Jean said. "She cheats." "I don't cheat," Lily said, still laughing. "I just know the rules better than you." Avery dropped her bag and sat down at the table and asked to be dealt in. She thought about the woman who'd sat on the basement floor in October with a yellow envelope in her hands. About how afraid she'd been, and how that fear had turned, slowly and not without cost, into something she hadn't even known she was capable of. She picked up her cards. She looked at her hand. She smiled.